Let's talk. Do you have a favorite Wally Yeoman story?
I do
share with us?
I have a number of them, and here's one that is rated PG. Wally, we used to meet at like an hour, 2 hours before game time. We would meet with the whole team. Well, Wally would bring the DBs in 15 minutes before the team meeting. He wanted to go over stuff, and he just brought them in, and I never went in. And one day, I was a little bored, so I went in, I sat in the back of Wally. He had like these 10 DBs up there, and he, on the board, he had the 4 positions. He had the formation, corner, he had them he had them drawn up. And he says, if they do this, we're going like this. But if they go here, we're going like this. Everybody's nodding their heads. He said, we're going like that. And pretty soon, he had like 20 lines going from each position, covered the whole thing. I couldn't follow it. And I asked one guy, I said, you got that? And kids said, yeah. They just nodded their head. Why? They knew it so well. And I would look at that, and I couldn't make head or tails of it, but all the kids did, Wally did, so that's all that counts. But that was, after I told the staff about it, everybody would run down, they'd peek in Wally's meeting toward the end and see all those lines drawn from every position, and he was kind of famous for that.
Okay, Trent Yeoman.
Trent, like I say, he played at Penn and coached at Penn, and he's brilliant. He really got a mind like a steel trap. But he came out, and I said he'd played defense for us, and I wanted him to work with receivers. So I said, and I was kind of coaching them and the quarterbacks and everything. I said, just stay with me this year and just kind of watch everything I do and listen to everything I say. And so he did, and he'd take notes, and then we'd talk, and he's pretty sharp. And he came in after the season and said, I think I'm ready for some more responsibility. So I said, okay. And I turned the wide receivers over and let him run drills and everything. And then, I took it over and we go back. Came in and I said, how'd you like that? He said, I liked it, but he said, I'm ready for more responsibility. I want to be in charge of the passing game. I said, okay. So he ran all the drills. He ran 7-on-7. When we got to our scrimmage and our team, I came in and started calling the plays, the passes I wanted to see. So anyway, we go like that for a whole year. And Trent comes in, I said, how'd you like to run the passing game? He said, I like what I did, but I didn't run the passing game, you did. He said, I ran the drills 7-on-7, but when it came to scrimmage and game, you called all the plays. I didn't. He said, I want to do it all. I'm thinking, man, he's ready for this, but I like doing it, but I said, okay, you're going to do it. So the next year, he's in charge of the passing game. He's in charge. So he's putting in the patterns and cuts, and I go down and listen to him. And the first thing, he's not saying things the way I said it. He's explaining them different than what I did. And I was biting my tongue. I said, man. So all that happened that year, we set every Penn passing record. He ran the first year he ran the passing game. It was the greatest passing year in Penn High history. And I learned something there. I had a pet way of saying things, but I learned there's more than one way to skin a cat. There's more than one way to explain things. So I learned something from Trent that year too, and it was kind of interesting. And as a sidelight, I took him, when I coached the 50th anniversary of the All-Star game, you could take one assistant coach and 5 head coaches. Well, my assistant I took was Trent, and he was the offensive coordinator for the North All-Stars, and he ran the show in practice. He called 95% of the plays, And man, did he do a great job. And arguably, we pulled a pretty big upset. I don't know, our kids are pretty good, but they're from places like, Pioneer, Monroe Central, going against boys from Ben Davis and Warren Central. But I found out small school kids could play too. And but Trent did a tremendous job, and I was really proud of him. And we threw the ball. We threw it 26 times. That used to be 4 pre-games and 4 full games for us. But it was just I was just very happy the way he did things, and I'm very. And the thing I like about him, I think he is still improving. I think he has his best year calling games this year, and he's been good in the past, but I just think he's getting better.
Chuck Wagner.
Chuck Wagner was he was a raisin counter. He had technique. He had adjustments. If we would have something, and I've never had a coach like this. We're playing a game, and our opponents come out with a defense completely new that we hadn't worked on, they'd never shown. Chuck, what are we going to do? How are we going to run the end play? He says, he always said, we can go here, and bring him around, or we can full lead here and here, and he has like 4, you just saw the defense, he had 4 adjustments we could make. And he was like that. He was an unbelievable technician. And we used to argue, and the kids would laugh about it because his 2 big stances at practice. If a lineman would mess up in a scrimmage, I would start to go up there and attack him. Chuck would go, he's mine, I'll handle it. That was his first one. And the second thing, when I was yelling at the offensive line, he'd argue, then he'd look up, Scott wouldn't even pay attention to me. He just those are his 2 main poses of practice. But it was one of those things that the great thing about our staff is nobody was a self-seeker. Nobody wanted the credit. They just wanted to win. And I just found out one thing. When we won, I just tried to deflect all the praise and try to get it to the assistants. I mean, as a head coach, you're going to get it anyway. So you might as well try to make them involved. And I also found out if you lose, don't throw any assistant over the bus. You take the blame yourself, again, because you're going to get it. But anyway, that was Chuck, and he would, his only problem was he'd have we'd come into our Sunday meeting, he'd have 7 or 8 ways you wanted to block a play. I said, Chuck, our game's execution. I want our base way and 1 changeup. I don't know what changeup I'm going to need. I said, well, you better think about it because we're only going to have 2 ways to block it. And anyway, one time, this is my favorite Chuck Wagner story. He has 8 ways to block the end play, and we're not doing it. He comes up to me, says, I want to keep my line after practice. I'm going to let them take their pads off, their jerseys. We're going to go out. I'm just going to walk through these other 7 and in case we need it. I'm just going to walk through it. I said, okay, go ahead. So the line stays, I want to go down there. So he's going down there, and I go in, and Corey comes down, and we get a Coke, and we're sitting in my office drinking a Coke, and talking for about a half hour. And I said, Corey, I'll give you a ride down to your car. He parked down by his classroom. I parked out back, so he got in my car. We were driving down there. He said, stop. He said, there's ghosts on our practice field. It's now black. I look at it, I can barely see people walking out there. It's dark. The sun's gone down. And I said, what is it? He says, it's Wagner in the O-line. I was like 7:30. Why? I'm like, come on, send them in. I got 1. No, send them in now. The kids come in, they were muttering under their breath and everything. Pitch black. I mean, that's just the way it was. And that was, it was when 2 days for group work, Corey and Donnie, all those guys, they would go for the shade. There would be shade in the street. They would go to Wagner Rules, take his O-line right out in the middle where the sun beats down, there's no shade. He says, we're tough, we can take this, we're not like those guys. Oh, his line was always mad about it. Man, why can't we ever get the shade? We're here in the sun. But I mean, that was just his way.
All right.